Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to be looking at Domain, also known as Zur Overlords, and how to sideboard with it against the top 10 most popular decks in Standard. Now, if you're looking for more of an analysis of the deck as a whole, I did a deck check on it that was posted last week. Today we're just focusing on the sideboard, so let's jump into it. So this is Domain, and before we start talking about the top 10 most popular decks, we should start looking at the sideboard. So, Authority of the Consuls is for the super aggressive decks, especially the hasting decks. Elspeth Smite, similarly for those type of decks as well, but also is a little bit more of a diverse removal spell. Rest in Peace is mostly for like the Tolarian Terror decks and any weird Reanimator decks hanging out. Split Up is a cheap, though conditional board wipe, but very good against these aggressive strategies where we really need the earliest board wipe possible. Beza is decent against mid-range, but is mostly in our deck for aggro, being able to gain life, be a blocker, and possibly produce even more blockers. Negate, again, for non-creature spells, we're talking like the Mirror Match or Control or anything like that. Obstinate Baloth is starting to be played in these Domain sideboards. One, because it's good against the aggressive decks as a blocker and gains life, but also the Esper Self-Bounce often has you discard cards with Hopeless Nightmare, which is very good against our deck, and then playing turn 1 Hopeless Nightmare and us just putting Obstinate Baloth on the battlefield can just win us the game against those Esper Self-Bounce decks, which I found to be kind of a bad matchup. Nissa Ascended Animist is very good against any deck that plays a lot of artifacts or enchantments, something like the Mirror Match, but also really good against any slow deck because it's a great finisher. And then Doppelgang is an insane finisher for any of these slow decks. So the most popular deck in Standard is Deir midrange. Against Deir, we are bringing in Elspeth Smite. Being able to deal with those creatures that are trying to draw a ton of cards against us is super important. And that is really all I like against the deck. Mostly because I don't really like Split Up, because it's really hard to wipe their board in that way. And then we're also just going to shave Overlord of the Flood Pits. It's the worst Overlord by quite a bit, and we're going to be shaving Overlord of Flood Pits like a lot, frankly. But this is our sideboard against Deir midrange. The second most popular deck is Golgari midrange. Against Golgari midrange, we are siding in Nissa and Doppelgang just as those finishers like we talked about. But frankly, other than that, I'm running it back. This is an insanely good matchup. I'm bringing out an Elspeth Smite and a Split Up because those are mostly focused on the aggro decks, and that's how I sideboard against Golgari. The third most popular deck is the new hotness to Standard is the Esper Self-Bounce deck. Against this deck, I've found that you need to be as aggressive as possible because if you let them do their thing, it's kind of just over. But Obstinate Baloth is excellent because of Hopeless Nightmare, and it helps you live, frankly. Split Up is decent to just kind of deal with their creatures. Negate is very, very good because countering this town ain't big enough, or Storm Chaser's Talon is just super important. And then Beza mostly just have another creature to be attacking with. Gonna be taking out the Elspeth Smite. We can't really rely on it being a good counterspell. We're going to take out the Atraxa package. The Analyze the Pollen and Atraxa often kind of go together. And be taking out Overlord of the Flood Pits and just shaving on a Zur. The fourth Zur is pretty much a flex slot, so we'll be shaving the fourth Zur quite a bit as well, too. But this is how I sideboard against the Esper Self-Bounce deck. The fourth most popular deck is Gruul Prowess. Also the slightly different deck. Gruul Aggro is the fifth most popular deck, and Mono Red Prowess is the eighth most popular deck, and we're going to sideboard the same against all of them. The Prowess version being the Slickshot Show-Off version, the aggro version being the non-Slickshot Show-Off version. But we're going to sideboard the same against all three of those decks. So we're going to bring in Authority of the Consuls, we're going to bring in Elspeth Smite, we're going to bring in Split Up, we're going to bring in Beza, and we are going to bring in Obstinate Baloth. Notice the pretty big sideboard because this is probably our worst matchup. We're going to bring out the Atraxa package because we can't realistically get that on the battlefield. We're going to bring out Up the Beanstalk because we are not interested in card advantage. Bring out Overlord of the Flood Pits because we aren't really looking to draw cards. And we're just going to shave a white Overlord. While being decent blockers, it's really easy for them to outsize the blockers. And realistically, we aren't casting the front face of it. So that's how I sideboard against the Gruul and Mono Red aggro decks. So we've already talked about the fifth most popular deck being Gruul aggro. So the sixth most popular deck is Domain, the Mirror Match. Against the Mirror, we're going to be bringing in Negate, we're going to be bringing in Nissa, and we're going to be bringing in Doppelgang. We're going to be siding out of Elspeth Smite. Split Up just frankly isn't very good. I also like bringing out Day of Judgment, because we need our cards to do more than just wipe the board. And shaving on a Sunfall. I like everything else. Keeping one Sunfall in is totally fine. That's how I sideboard in the Mirror. The seventh most popular deck is the Jeskai Convoke deck. Against Jeskai Convoke, I like bringing in Authority of the Consuls. Split Up is unreasonably good. I really like Beza just because it's an aggro deck. And similarly with Obstinate Baloth, We're going to be bringing out the Atraxa package and up the Beanstalk for similar reasons, right? I'm not looking to play that long game. I'm looking to answer what they're doing and move on. This high sideboard against Jeskai Convoke. We've already talked about the 8th most popular deck, which is Mono Red Prowess. So the 9th most popular deck is the Mono White Token Control deck. Against this deck, we are bringing in Negate, we are bringing in Nissa, and Doppelgang, just mostly as finishers. We are siding out of Elspeth Smite. I don't like Split Up, but I do like the other board wipes, being able to just kind of reset after the control craziness. And we're going to just be shaving on Zur and Blue Overlord, and that's how I sideboard against Mono White. And then the 10th most popular deck is the Azorius Convoke deck, Azorius Aggro, Azorius Curiosity, whatever you want to call it. I really like Authority against this deck. I also like Elspeth Smite more against this deck than the Jeskai deck. Being able to deal with Enduring Curiosity forever is really nice. Split Up is very good, and Obstinate Bale is very good, and Beza is very good. We're going to side out of our Atraxa package, get rid of Overlord of the Flood Pits. I'm not looking to grind, so I'm going to shave on cut up the Beanstalk, excuse me. And then we're going to cut a single Zur, and that's how I sideboard against the Azorius deck. So there you go, how to sideboard against the top 10 most popular decks in Standard with Domain. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.